huge games that resulted in wins last night for their teams. This may have cost LeBron his frontrunner seat, as Fox Bet now has Joel Embiid as the slight favorite to win MVP over the King. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard is now joining us. So, Chris, right now, who is your first half MVP?
If I had to vote right now, I would give it to Joel Embiid, slightly ahead of LeBron James and James Harden, in that order. So LeBron number 2, Harden number 3. But Embiid, the only negative against Joel Embiid is that he's missed 6 games. And that actually may bolster his case because Philadelphia is 1-5 in those games, and they're 23-7 with him, which over an 82-game season is a 63-win pace. So Embiid is doing it all. You know, I've always said I want to see him in the post more. And I've even been saying that this year. But I've just come to accept that in the days NBA, you're only going to post up so much. I don't care how big you are. But that said, he does lead the league in post-ups and post points. So he's doing it down low at times. His mid-range jumpers become deadly. His three-point shot, he's shooting 42% from the arc. As we saw last night, that was tremendous. So he's a very, very good three-point shooter. He's 85% from the foul line. Defensively, we know he gets it done. He is beating LeBron and James Harden in the traditional stats of points and rebounds, field goal percentage, in the advanced stats for the most part, and then in terms of his team's record with him versus his team's record, or that they plummet without him. So James Harden, I just think it's clear. I mean, not James Harden, Joel Embiid, I think you'd have to give it to him at this point in time.
You want to go, Skip?
No,
that was
you
the
go.
argument I made earlier. But so I'm gonna let you. Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah.
I agree with you, Chris. I went to slight nod. I went to slight nod with Joel Embiid. And I mean, and basically our lists are the same. I had Joel Embiid 1. I had LeBron 2. I had Harden 3. I went Nikola Jokic in the 4th spot, and I had Dame Lillard in the 5 spot. But if you put Dame in the 4th spot and Jokic down to 5, I wouldn't be disappointed, because Dame really has the most compelling case for MVP, because he played the lion's share of the season without his second and third best players, C.J. McCollum and Yusuf Nurkic. So he's been unbelievable. And although he didn't have a great shooting game last night, nobody can shoot as bad as Dame can in a game. And when it comes to a big moment, rise to the occasion. He's unafraid of any moment. So I love that about his game. But back to Joel Embiid, I agree with you. And because if LeBron, for me, Chris, if LeBron had won that game the other night, in which he scored 36, and somehow they could have pulled that game out, I would have kept LeBron in the 1 spot. But because he didn't, and Joel Embiid did what he did, 40 and 19, and he had the wherewithal to like, okay, I'm about to post you up, Ingles. No, I need a 3. Let me hurry up and get out here to the 3-point line and swish it. I give him that. And the question that I have about James Harden, will the voters hold what he did in Houston the first 10 games of the season against him, and will he bring that record? Because are we wiping the slate clean as far as wins and losses in Houston and only accepting Brooklyn? Or are we bringing some of that baggage with us over to Brooklyn? But for me right now, the top 3 would be Joel Embiid, LeBron James, and James Harden.
So, Chris Broussard, just a day ago on this show, I tried to convince Shannon Sharpe that Joel Embiid is better than Jokic, that I would take Joel any day or night over Jokic. And all of a sudden, off one night's performance against Utah and Philadelphia, I got my man Shannon to see the light. And he's flipped completely, and now he has elevated Joel Embiid even above his man LeBron James for first half MVP. So I want to thank Shannon for seeing the light on Joel Embiid.
No, Skip, baby. See, you want everything to be etched in stone. Like, okay, but you said this. Okay, Joel Embiid played great. It's going to be floating. It's going to be fluid. You make it seem like, guess what? I believe at some point in time, maybe James Harden will be in the 1 spot. LeBron's going to go back to the 1 spot. Who knows? The Nuggets could get hot. You don't get to stay there. Oh, okay, since he's in the one spot at the beginning for the first 25 games, he gets to stay there for the rest of the games. Not if it's not deserving. Joel Embiid has played well enough to be in the one spot.
I don't do floating. I don't do fluid. I stand by what I say. And I said Joel Embiid has finally figured out how to get and stay in shape. And he is a maturing monster. All the points Chris made, I 1,000% agree with, but I have to add a big one. Joel said after the game last night, my goal is to be Defensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year. And down the stretch last night, he looked like the Defensive Player of the Year. So when I add all that up, I definitely have Joel Embiid as my #1 MVP pick for the first half of the year. But now, to my bottom line, I don't have LeBron James in my top 5 because he fell out. Speaking of floating, he floated right down the February River out of the top 5 because I can't defend the fact. And remember, for the record, a year ago, I had LeBron winning the MVP. But this year, without AD, we all agreed he had a golden opportunity to make his case, and he's gone 3-5 without Anthony Davis, and he's gone 2-4 at home. And he lost to Brooklyn at home with no KD, and he lost to Miami when Miami was actually struggling, and he lost to 10-17 Washington at home. Then he lost to Phoenix the other night when they had lost Devin Booker early in the third quarter. I'm sorry, you can't defend a man whose three-point shooting has fallen for the year all the way down to 35.8%. That ranks 120th in the NBA out of 164 qualified three-point shooters. His free throw shooting, 0.2%. That ranks 102nd of 112 qualified free throw shooters. That's pathetically bad for a man that again, Shannon tries to tell me is not only the GOAT, but still the reigning best player on the planet. I can't make an MVP case off a guy who's also second in the league in turnovers. So in the end, I'm going Embiid. Then I got James Harden just a close second. And I agree with Shannon. He gets disqualified because of that ugly start in Houston. I've got Dame rising all the way up because he's got his team in the 5th seed to 3rd. Jokic is now the 7th seed. They're a disappointment at 20 and 15. I got him 4th. And I got Chris Paul for the miracle he is pulling off in Houston. In Phoenix right now. They've won 12 out of 14. They're the 2 seed right now. So I think he is the driving force and an MVP candidate in Phoenix right now. So LeBron is 6th.
You make some solid
points,
Chris. Skip. I will give you that. Let me answer your question about Harden, Shannon. First of all, I do think it will hurt him if it's close. I think Harden's only real chance to win the award is if Brooklyn just goes on an absolute tear over the second half. Really, if they just keep this up, what have they won? 10 of their last 11. If they were to play at some crazy pace in the second half, put a ton of distance between them and Philadelphia or Milwaukee at second place in the East, then I think he'd have a good chance. But if it's close, like it could be Embiid, it could be Harden, it could be LeBron, Dame, whoever, I think that will work against him. As far as your list, Skip, Dame Lillard, what they lose, 4 straight recently? I mean, I can point to a stretch where they struggled, so I can't just act like LeBron's the only one whose team went through a tough stretch, because Dame did that. Jokic, look, I was on Denver radio yesterday, and they were trying to convince me he's the MVP. I said if they were second or maybe even third in the West, Jokic might be the MVP. Because he's got the highest PER in history right now. And we know his stats are crazy. He's playing great ball. But they're 7th seed. How can I put that ahead of LeBron James? Dame, even at the 5th seed. Chris Paul, I'm not going to put him ahead of LeBron. 16 points, 8 assists. Not even like he's dropping a ton of assists. But he has had a great impact on that team. But remember, they were playing well in the bubble. 8-0, and some of that has come over to this year, even without Chris Paul. So I like what he's done. My top 5 would be Embiid, LeBron, Harden, Jokic, and Dame. Or, like, I really agree with Shannon. You could flip Dame and Jokic, and I'm not going to make a stink about it. But I can't. There's LeBron not in the top 5, Skip. How? Come on.
Okay.
He's ninth. Throw this at you.
Yeah.
He's ninth in the league.